everyone. Welcome to Ladies in Law. We are so excited because Krisi Kastl is back with us in the house in our new set. We're so excited to have her. She has been practicing and has her own firm for almost 20 years. She's about to celebrate her 20-year anniversary and planning a big party. She's, of course, a woman-owned law firm. She's past president of the Dallas Bar Association and such a huge advocate for women. And we are absolutely thrilled to have you. Thank you for being here.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
So when we were talking about bringing Krisi back and trying to come up with a great topic, we just were thinking in a way that what women have accomplished up to this point and kind of where we're lacking in the law and in business. So really what made me want to talk to you about this, Krisi, is my daughter. So my daughter is taking a women's study class at USD. And she said, Mom, we were having this conversation and there's so many women that are going to law school that are first year associates, but there aren't very many women-owned law firms. The disparity is huge. It's like only 15 to 20% of women are either at partnership levels or own firms. Same or less for trial lawyers, women that are actually going to trial and being first chair. And she just asked me, Mom, why is that? And I really started thinking about it. And I said, we're there, but we're not in the most powerful seats, the ones that are making the decisions. So, and I know that you have been such a huge advocate for getting women to actually want to move into those power seats so that we can help other women. So just tell us kind of how you've gone about doing that in your life.
Well, sometimes you do things out of necessity, and when you have no choice, or very few choices. So I started my own law firm so that I could decide how I practice law and the way I treated not only the men, but also the women. Working in a male-dominated field, such as personal injury, has been challenging. It's gotten better, especially with friends like Pat Montez, Shelley Greco, Dawn, Marion Munley. We've had a lot of great women friends that help us along the way. But to be a woman in a plaintiff's personal injury world, especially, it's more of a man's world, even today, than a woman's world. So in 1999 is when I graduated from law school, and I joined a firm where there was one female trial lawyer and the rest were men. And that one female trial lawyer really tried to be a mentor to me, but when push came to shove, she really sided with the men and was threatened by me. And now she works with me.
Oh, wow. I don't know this story.
And so she and I realized, because I told a friend of hers at a bar association event, I just wish she had realized I was on her side, because she and I would be ruling the world right now. About 3 weeks later, I got a resume and a call and said, would you consider hiring me? So now we work together, and we're great friends, and trying to represent our clients the way we should have 20 plus years ago. So it was actually, I guess, 26 plus years ago that she and I worked together. And so now we're doing it our way. And while we are an equal opportunity employer,
you hire men.
On occasion, on occasion, but most of the trial attorneys at the firm are women, and my husband has joined the firm not as an attorney but as COO, so we have to make it male friendly. But luckily, they all understand that it's a female dominant practice, and we have lots of pink. We do have some black and some brown around, but lots of pink. So. I like to say that women of the generation just under me, so I'm 55, and those 45 and younger, they are women who promote and support each other as a general rule. Mm-hmm. But women my age and older, as a general rule, do not.
They kicked us around pretty hard, huh?
A lot.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yep, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
And so, the queen bee, the pull the ladder up, don't leave it down for any other woman because I'm the only one that deserves to make it, is very prevalent. Now there are exceptions to those rules. And as we all know, Pat Montes is a promoter and a supporter of women. She fights for her friends. She fights for the underdog. And Pat Montes has helped me be a better trial lawyer by writing my opening statement. When I said, I'm at a loss, I don't know what to do. Don't worry, I got it. I'll write it for you. After she'd spent 12 hours with my client while I was trying another case. And so she wrote the opening, she sent it to me, and I had to go do payroll, and our associate gave the opening. We won that trial by a lot.
I love it.
So Pat's been instrumental. So having a support system and a group of girlfriends that help and support you, I think is huge for women making their way in this world. And if we figure out how to promote and help each other, like the men have been doing for years, then we will all be better off.
Yeah. Well, the title of this episode is In the Room, but Not in Power. So I think trying to figure out how we've gotten to the point where, we've encouraged women to go to law school, become lawyers, but how do we get to continue to encourage them to stay in the workforce or leave and come back and have the courage to run for office, to have the courage to start their own firm, because we've got to have women at the seat, at the table, so that they are bringing along other young women and creating opportunities for young women. I think that that's where this gap is that we're seeing right now. At least from I'm going to be 55 this year too, and from that standpoint, it's like, how do we bridge that gap? How do we get to that next level?
Well, I think we have to change the structure of our business world, our law firm world, and the definition of success. I think I worked 100-hour weeks trying to prove myself to a bunch of men that, quite frankly, might not have been worth my effort. Because honestly, I knew as much or more than they did, although let me say that. They knew more than I did, but I love our clients and I loved the work, and instead of being helped at my first job, I was made fun of and treated poorly. I think to some degree because men were afraid of the assets that women could bring to the firm, and it makes them have to work harder. So with all that to say is, success should not be how many hours am I at the law firm. Success should be how much have I done for the law firm in the time that I can give 100% of myself. And so we need to make we need to make work such that we work so that we can have a life, not live for the work.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of our problem. We all we all live to work instead of working to live.
Right. Yeah. I think this whole thing about balance, we were talking about balance. And
seems to come up on the regular.
It does. It does. And there's, this is what I'm adopting for this year, is an intentional imbalance. This is my new thought process, because when you're kind of coming up, you don't know anything. You know some things. You bring parts in from your life, but when you're coming up, you have to learn. You have to grow, and you do that by spending time. So maybe your family life has to take a little bit of a back seat to do that. But then if you are completely imbalanced for all of this time, and you spend all of this time in your career and not building your family, and then that is, I don't know, needs help later on. So maybe you need to switch back. So trying to explain balance to young women like my daughter and women that are graduating from college and just starting out, what do you think is the best piece of advice you could give them so that they are still learning, are still competitive, without just selling completely out on their personal life?
Well, and I'm going to mess this up, but my brother, who has his priorities in the right place, posted on social media not that long ago a jar with rocks, sand, and water in it. And so there is somewhat of a balance in how and when to prioritize work versus fun versus family. And it says, you make God first, family second. I think it's work third, and then all the rest comes later. And I may have just messed that up, but they used, here's the jar, then the rocks, then the sand, and then the water. And if you
do it backwards,
it doesn't work. And so what's interesting is when I was starting my business, I started in June of 2006, about 7 years after I graduated law school. I joined the DAYL leadership class. And in that class, the best piece of advice that I ever received truly in my life was calendar everything that you want to do. That means calendar sleep, calendar working out, calendar getting dressed, calendar time with girlfriends, time with family, time for work, time for study, time for whatever, trial. And so ironically, looking back at my life, I always said, okay, I'm going to go to sleep at this time. I'm going to wake up this time. I'm giving myself an hour to get dressed. I'm giving myself an hour to work on this project. So I'd kind of been doing that. But the things I hadn't been doing that I learned in 2006 was I'm going to take time to work out today. And I'm giving myself an hour and a half total. 15 minutes to get ready, an hour to work out, and 15 minutes to get home, and then this much time to get dressed. So I think calendaring everything you want to do is key. But I also think knowing when you need to change up what you're doing. So when I was in college, nothing was more important than school or work. Forget the baby showers, forget the bridal showers, forget everything that was even remotely fun. Forget going to New York with a free plane ticket, a free place to stay, and a really good-looking guy. Don't do that because it's going to cost you $500 because you won't be able to work this weekend. So I made poor choices in my 20s until I decided to take a semester off school and go to Australia. One of the best things I ever did. And then I came back and got a 4.0 paying for school without my scholarship. And it was okay. So I think I just decided I'm going to Australia. And both my parents were like, what? You're doing what? My dad's like, go talk to your mother. She's not going to let you go. And my mother said, go talk to your father. He's not going to let you go. And I looked at both of them and I said, I'm 21. Neither one of you can tell me what to do. And I'm going to go. And it was so awesome because they both wanted me to go, but they both were afraid that I'd lose my scholarship and I wouldn't be able to do. But I just decided this is important to me. And ironically, I'd hung out with lots of men. And there was a group of 5 girls going. And I'm like, when am I going to have a chance to go with fun girls and stay at someone's home in Australia? So I think you just have to decide what your priorities are and then set boundaries based on ultimate goals. So give up what you want right now for what you want. What's the word? Anyway, I'm messing it up. But ultimately, you make sacrifices now for what you want later. But just remember, what you want later has to be what you really want.
Right.
And if you don't know, maybe you need to take a step back and decide, maybe I don't need to be partner at that firm. Maybe I need to be partner at this firm. And I don't know if we talked about this the last time I was here, but I think I look back to my first job, which, by the way, I learned a lot at that first job. I'm still friends with a lot of people I worked with at that job, and it taught me a lot. But I wish I had known then what I know now, because I let that firm decide my worth. And there's something, again, I saw on social media. And a father gives his daughter, upon college graduation, a car. And he says, here's a car. Go sell it. Tell me what it's worth. And so she goes to one place and they say, that's a hunk of junk. We'll give you $100. And she goes, I'm going to go somewhere else. She goes somewhere else and they said, we can fix that up, make it work. We'll give you $20,000. She goes to the third place and said, that's a collector's item. It's worth over $1 million. And I've messed up the story, but ultimately go places where you're appreciated, where your values align with the folks you work with, and where maybe it's okay to leave at 3 to go pick up your child. And then you start working again after dinner's over and your child is sleeping. So, I mean, I don't know if I have any of the answers, but I think being partner at a male law firm is not what most women want these days.
What do you think, Lise?
Yeah, I think she hit the nail on the head. Go where you're appreciated, because it made me think too of the other social media. Like you can buy a bottle of water at the stadium and pay $10, or you can buy it at the grocery store for $1. So it really is just trying to figure out what is that environment for you. So then now it translates to the law school. What? It's like 52%. What's the percentage of women going into law school?
It's more, so the statistic is that there are finally more women first associates than males.
Okay.
For
that's
the first
huge.
time in the history of, the United States or whatever, since law school started.
So we're seeing that trend, and I think it'll continue to go up in the firms. It's going to take a long time. And then it's going back to, what do they really want? Do they want to be that equity partner at that big firm? Or do they want to pick up their child? There's just so many options that are out there. So I think we're going to get to the point that it has to be evaluated differently. And I don't know if you remember Simona Faris, that's her big platform, is like, how do we keep the women in law?
Right.
So you got to be more open-minded to have the opportunities that they can still work and they can have that balance or imperfect balance or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But I'm super optimistic about the numbers. It's just, when is it going to show itself on the tail end? Mm-hmm. And do they really want to do that anymore? Just like you said, you better want to do that at the tail end of your life. So now when you look back, everything that you've done, where you are today, did it pan out? I mean, it sounds like you are exactly where you want to be, servicing the clients that you want to service. Would you do anything differently?
Absolutely.
Knowing what you know now. Okay, what would you do?
Absolutely. I wouldn't work as much my first 3 years of practice. Mm-hmm. And then I wouldn't work as much my next 4 years of practice. And I would have planned better to start my law firm earlier. And I always knew I wanted to have my own law firm.
Yes.
And I always knew I wanted to be a trial lawyer. I didn't know I wanted to be a personal injury plaintiff's lawyer. I wanted to work on education policy and revamp the Texas education school system.
There's still time.
I still might. You never know. But I think I did make a conscious effort in law school to go home at Thanksgiving and to go home at Christmas because I was tired of missing everything with my family. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that I was just thinking about this time last year. I missed a lot with my family. And since our last podcast, my mother has passed, and it was like I was taking a deposition in a closet at my niece's graduation party right as my mom got to Arizona. And I'm like, is this really where I should be at this point in my career?
No.
Why am I doing this? Why is my associate not doing it? And he refused to do it. A young man refused to take the deposition. So I had to go in the closet, take the deposition. And then, of course, the judge didn't let us use the testimony at trial. Mm. But I think if I had it to do over again, I would have had more fun in college. I would have worked less. And in law school, I would have worked a little harder in some areas. And I would have worked less hard in other areas.
So, but do you think you would be where you are today if you would have made those choices? Like, do you really feel like today somebody like you back then can get to where you are now by not working like you did?
Back then,
I'm hopeful for that, but I don't know if I believe that that's possible.
Well, it's interesting. I had two professors. One was older when I was in college, and one was relatively young. The relatively young one had an awesome husband, 2 awesome kids, and she was tenure track. The other lady had 2 awesome kids, not so great a husband, but had waited 10 years or 15 years before she had her children. And she goes, I can't believe Professor so-and-so is able to do all of this so young. I was not in that position. Mm-hmm. But that professor had a husband who was not supportive of her career. Mm-hmm. The younger professor had a husband who was very supportive of her career. Yes. So I think we have to realize that we have to marry the right kind of person too, or align ourselves with the right kind of person, because both have to want. You both have to want the same thing, or at least want it for each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you don't want your spouse to be gone and away, don't marry somebody who owns a law firm.
Right.
Or has to go out for drinks until 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, my husband's like, we were dating, he goes, will you always be out till 10 o'clock at night? I said, I will be unless you can support me in the lifestyle I'd like to become accustomed to living. Because this is part of my business, now our business. And so he goes, oh, okay. And he kind of looked at me like, okay, that's a valid point. So I would do things different. But I often say Castle Law is about to be 20 years old in the next month, less than a month now. And I could have a 20-year-old child. And so I did pour everything into my law firm. And I didn't really do anything different for myself than I had done for the prior 2 employers I had. I treated their business like my business. I treated their clients like my clients. I did everything I could to make them make money. I did everything I could to make the clients happy. So it's just kind of ingrained in me as to what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, because that's who I am. But if I could go back and do things a little differently, I might have gotten married earlier, or I might have just had a child without getting married, because nobody told me,
That's okay.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And when you're 35, you might be too old to have kids. But for sure, by the time you're 40 and a little bit, you're really too old to have children. So I think you just have to sit down and determine, here are my priorities. And what is it going to take to get from point A to point B? And in the society we have, it is still very much a man's world and patriarchal. But there is progress. There's change. And since I started my law firm in Dallas, which as far as I know, I'm the only all-woman-owned law firm in the plaintiff's personal injury realm that started in 2006 that has more than about 4 employees. So we have lots of women who have their own practice, but not their own law firm. And those that did started like 2008, 9, 10, usually did it with a man. So I did. Yes,
I was a man.
Yeah. And that's okay. I think, look, and I'm not RBG. It won't be okay for us to have 9 women on the Supreme Court. There are men and women in this world. And I think we need to remember that we need to help our boys get to where they need to go. Because I think young men are not as successful as they once were, because there's been a huge focus on the women. And there still needs to be a huge focus on the women. But we can't forget that the boys need to thrive and survive too. And I think we need to, just 2 wrongs don't make a right. We need to enable all young people to excel and to thrive and make them feel heard. But I think that's what's great about law firms. Have a huge opportunity to embrace women and what they bring to the table. Because as people like Pat Montez know, she worked for an all-male firm. They were kicking out bad cases, and she's like, wait a minute, that's a good case. Let me work on that case. And she took it and she ran with it. But once it became a good case, the men were trying to grab it back. So, I think it's just interesting. I think people want power, they want success, and they don't know how. There's enough pink and there's enough success for all of us.
That's right.
My success does not mean that your success is any less, and vice versa. So if we all can remember that, then I think we'll all be much happier.
Yeah, for sure.
And there'll be more women and men doing great things.
That's kind of another thing that I just wanted to touch on with you is that, when we're talking about kind of the things that we wish we knew when we were, kind of coming up, I feel like nobody shared kind of how hard it was, or, what you could have done a little bit different, or, how important it was to maybe find a mate early or take time to do that. I feel like women are so cautious about sharing their vulnerabilities, especially in legal, because it's such a aggressive, judgmental, like trying to get on top of the other person. You're trying to win, so it's very adversarial. So you don't want to show those weaknesses. And I think if we can encourage more conversations about, how hard it is or what we did at the time to manage. Like with you, I mean, same. I missed my kids' graduation from, kindergarten because I was taking a deposition. I tell so many women that I'm talking to that are young, I'm like, don't miss those things. If you have a trial, yes, you're going to have to miss it,
Mm-hmm.
but you can reschedule a deposition. I mean, we have to talk about these things and talk about them with as many people that'll listen, because it doesn't have to be like that.
And you have to pick your battles too. Kindergarten graduation is a big deal. No matter what anybody says, it's a big deal, especially to your child, right? But you might have to miss the Valentine's party at the beginning, but maybe you can show up at the end, or maybe you can take something in advance. I mean, there's all kinds of different priorities you have to make. I mean, at some point we all have to work. Mm-hmm. But I think if you remember that you work so that you can have a life, you shouldn't make work your life.
That's right.
And so if we can, but it's hard, it's easier said than done. And now that I have my own law firm, that's what I loved, calendaring all my own stuff. And like today, there was something I was supposed to do today. I said, we're going to have to move that because you asked me to do this. And I said, I'm going to make time for this today.
We're so excited you did. We're so excited you did. Well, thank you so much for being here. I think we need to have an annual event with Krisi Kastl.
Yes.
Just to keep on following up every single time so we can have you back. Thank you for everything that you do for women. Thank you for everything that you've done for me and Lisa. We love what you do for the community.
Thank you for having this podcast, and I have all kinds of great ideas to bring all kinds of women here.
Yes.
Victoria Nyave, Cass Hernandez, Lauren Black, so many different women doing great things in our community. Yeah. So I love that you are highlighting women and doing it in such style. So thank you.
Style is important. Style is very important.
And I have to say, I really am envious of your daughter going to USD, because I was in Lubbock, Texas, and I got my acceptance letter because I was on a wait list. I'm like, how did I move to Lubbock? I could be in San Diego. No offense, Red Raiders. I love you. But, wow, San Diego is my favorite place in the whole universe.
It's kind of a good pick for her. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Well, thank you guys for being here with us. Thank you, Krisi, for being here. Yes. And if you have any questions for Krisi, or if you have any questions for us, always you can reach out at hello@ladiesinlaw.com. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.